Welcome back to the True Detective Companion Podcast presented by The Disorderly. Head over to disorderly.com for the best in sports and entertainment. Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook, and you can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. It's been a crazy day, crazy week, just work week, but I owe you guys this podcast. There's a girl on the loose. Wayne is losing his memory little by little, and we have to solve this case. So I'm here to help make progress on this case and get this thing done because it's important to me. I've been developing theories. I've been rattling all the details around in my brain, trying to come up with some sort of solution, and here we are. So, big ending, obviously. We're going to work our way up to that. But it revealed a lot, and to be honest, I'm kind of surprised that we got that already. I know that we're nearing the end, but there's still 2 episodes left after this one. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning. So we were right about a bunch of leads we discussed in the last episode, and actually just throughout this companion podcast so far this season. A lot of things were confirmed to us in this. For one, the police do in fact think that Tom Purcell is guilty based on that phone call from Julie. It's clear that Roland is more torn about accusing him because he's clearly got this friendship with Tom. To Wayne's credit, he didn't seem overly keen on accusing Tom either, and he's basically taking the approach of, we gotta investigate everything we can, and if he's innocent, we'll clear him, so no big deal. But clearly, Roland's taking it a lot more personally. It's clear that the relationship between them is a little bit different. You can tell because Tom kept appealing to Roland in the conversation, right? Another superb bit of acting by Stevendorf, by the way. You can see the strain on his face, trying to sort of be tough and do his job, but clearly so torn inside. And when Tom reaches his breaking point in that interrogation room, as painful as it was to see the primal yell, that was a powerful moment. It was almost harder to see the look that Roland shot the officers on the other side of the one-way mirror. Like why did you make me do this? That look, that torn, painful look where he's almost suppressing his pain. Granted, Tom's screaming in pain, and that's powerful. But something about the fact that Roland had almost put on a tough guy face when he was clearly hurting because he was doing this to his friend. That was some powerful stuff. There's a bit of a cliffhanger that I don't think we got answered as well. In the 2015 timeline with the television producer, she references how that phone call and that interrogation, holding him 24 hours, was viewed by police as an indictment against Tom, especially in light of what happened. And they cut it off there in light of what happened. Now, we know how the episode ends, but we still don't know what happens to Tom after the credits roll. And I, again, more on that later, but I wonder, what happens? Does he kill himself? Does it make it look like, he was somehow involved in Julie's disappearance to frame him post-mortem, similar to whatever they did to Woodard? I don't know. I don't know exactly what she's referencing in 2015, but that I noted that down because I feel like that's going to come back, in the final 2 episodes. Hey, I have a question, by the way, about Amelia's whole writing situation. I get that Wayne is a fantastic investigator, and it makes sense that he'd be back on the same case that he was on in the 80s, right? I understand they reopen the case, they bring him back in 1990, but also at the same time, Amelia starts working on a sequel to her first book about the investigation, which I haven't seen anything about that sequel, so I don't know if it actually comes out, but it seems like it'd be a conflict of interest, right? I understand she kind of wrote this thing after the case had closed, after the Woodard thing, but shouldn't in this situation where they're both working on it again, shouldn't he either not be on the case or her not be allowed to write that book since all of that information is protected during an open investigation? You can make a promise, I'm not going to tell her any of the details of the case, but I would think from a higher-ups perspective, that'd be pretty worrisome, right? The situation's a little too risky for police to just be fine with it. I don't know the exact law, but that always kind of felt weird to me. I don't know. But back to the facts here. We learned a lot of new information in this episode, and I'm just going to sort of run through it bullet style. So Tom Purcell is gay. People saw him at the gay club in town. He had a pamphlet about curing homosexuality with Christianity. That calls into question whether the kids are actually his, which has already been something that's been speculated about, and it also gives him motive to be at Devil's Den the night of the incident, since Devil's Den is apparently a gay meetup spot. Also, Wayne's son is having an affair with the television producer lady, something that I called very early on. I think as soon as Wayne went into the room, he saw the 2 wine glasses. I was like, oh, I bet that she's banging the son. I don't know what the significance of this is, if at all, but, it was confirmed, so we'll see where that goes. Then there's the peephole from Will's room to Julie's, or so we thought. We thought it was a creepy peephole. We thought maybe the uncle was spying on Julie getting changed or whatever. Turns out that was a hole used to pass notes, and the notes were innocent. Right? It was just it was a very innocent thing. It wasn't as sinister as originally seemed. At least that's the running theory now. And finally, we get the reintroduction of Dan O'Brien, the creepy cousin of Lucy Purcell. He doesn't tell the information to the police, but a drunk Tom beats the hell out of him at gunpoint. And we find out the info he's holding is basically how Julie gets her money and who would be responsible for paying her again if she needed more. But I think the implication is whoever is paying Lucy this money is somehow complicit in the disappearance of Julie. Now, the sketchy part of all this comes from the people up top, right? I think that's the theory basically right now, is that they're responsible for everything. There's a lot of pressure from the Attorney General and the other higher-ups to pin the children's murder on Woodard. And there's this interesting wrinkle in the form of Harris James, right? So James is the one who identified Will's backpack on the porch. It's my guess that he's the one that planted it there too, since he's conveniently working at Hoyt now as the chief security officer. This is back in the 90s still. I'm assuming the Hoyt people had him plant the evidence in order to pin the case on Woodard, and in return, they offered him this super cushy job at the Hoyt factory. There was also this borderline gay comment at the end of his interaction with the detectives. He says, Wayne has a good body. I don't know if that ties into Tom being gay or who that ties into or whether that involves the situation with the kids. No idea. But it was just interesting that the episode that sort of focused around the fact that Tom Purcell is gay, a piece of information we did not have before. Then there's this blatantly, homoerotic comment from this key figure, James Harris. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea if that ties in, if that was even intentional or what that was. It was just kind of strange for me to put that in there if it doesn't have any point. I don't know. All right. We've arrived. Let's talk about the ending. Tom Purcell is drunk as hell, and he decides to break into the Hoyt mansion. Now, he's not exactly being sneaky, but it wouldn't matter anyway because he's being watched on security cameras the whole time. The guy watching him, who is revealed a few moments later to be James Harris, the Hoyt head of security, allows him to walk around the house, down a hallway in the basement, and through some heavy doors. He flips on the light, and it's this room that's painted completely pink. This is what we see from our perspective. We see him looking, just above the camera at maybe the back wall or whatever. We don't get any visual of this, so we can't see what he's looking at all. But he says, "What the hell, Julie?" And then the episode ends with James Harris appearing in the room right behind Tom, and the screen cut into black. Big moment, obviously. Seems pretty clear that Julie was kept there. When he says Julie, I don't think he's looking at Julie. I'm assuming he's looking at pictures maybe, or I don't know, some drawing she made that he recognized, or something like something that would lead him to believe that Julie stayed there for a while. But I think that's all he's seeing. I don't think he's seeing, actual Julie. But then again, go back to the moment with the runaway was getting interrogated, and he said that Julie would refer to herself as the princess of the pink rooms. And people thought that was kind of just like a drugged out mind just saying some like wacky drug shit. But now it seems like it's quite literal. And if Julie was kept in this pink room, that's sort of how she coped with whatever abuse, she was forced to suffer while she was there. To me, it's just very clear that they found the room where Julie's being kept. So of course that is at this Hoyt mansion. It seems like all of this stuff's coming together with the theory we discussed last week, and what I think is probably the more obvious theory out of all of them anyway. But it seems clear to me that this Hoyt operation, the guy who runs it, is also running this child sex trafficking ring, right? So there's a plan in place to take Julie and put her into this ring. Now, did they buy Julie off of Lucy, the mom, and that's where all this money is coming from? Did they straight up kidnap her? Was there just deception along the way? Like maybe, they spun it where it's like, oh, Julie will be happy and safe and feel even better, than she is in your broken home or whatever. Maybe they spun it in some way. So Lucy made this decision to basically give up her child, thinking that the child was going to be a better place, And in fact, that wasn't the case at all. Maybe she didn't have all the details. Maybe once she knew, she was so guilt-ridden that she, really leaned into her drug addiction. But it was clear she had problems before that as well. That would also tie in with Lucy being the person that wrote that ransom note, right? The theory that was discussed by Wayne before, where Lucy wrote the ransom note to make Tom feel better, to be like, look, they're in a better place, because she actually knows not exactly where Julie is, but she at least knows the details of what happened that day. Maybe Will wasn't supposed to be there at all. Maybe Julie's supposed to get kidnapped, and Will went looking for her, and they had to kill him. I don't know, man. It's interesting. And then the other part of this, when Julie makes that phone call, and she's like, the man pretended to be my father, maybe she got brainwashed during the kidnapping process, and she feels as if her dad either gave her up, or her dad is this bad, evil man, or whatever it is. Like, this happened to you because of your dad. Who knows? But that would explain why she thinks that her father, who's really been worried these past 10 years, is completely innocent of all this, why he is this guilty party that she wants nothing to do with, right? It would all tie in. But that's where we'll wrap it for this episode. Still 2 episodes left. It's a great season, great show. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am, and I hope you continue to listen to this companion podcast. Once again, disorderly.com for the best in sports and entertainment, and then you can find us on our social media platforms, as I said at the beginning. And I guess most importantly, rate, review, subscribe to this podcast. No sports podcast this week. I don't know if people even listen to both, so that might be that information might fall on deaf ears. But we're coming back with more. Got some interviews lined up, so that'll be coming next week. But just taking a week off because, like I said, this week's been crazy for work. But you guys don't care about that. Rate, review, subscribe to this podcast, and I will see you next week with a brand new True Detective Companion podcast. Enjoy, guys.